Okay, today we're going to talk about why the RFE squat, or rear foot elevated squat, is such a great selection for pitchers, and a couple things to notice when you're setting up for it and things to avoid when you're conducting it. So one thing we want to look at with our pitching population is that we sampled all of our pro pitchers last year at the moment of ball release. So this is when the foot contact has been made, the ball is coming out of their hand, and their trunk tilt, the angle at which their trunk was forwardly projected at the moment the ball came out of their hand, ranged from 26 degrees to 46 degrees. So that's a pretty big variance, but the idea is that when the ball is coming out of their hand, at their moment of force delivery is when they need the most stability, and they have a huge forward lean with their trunk as that front leg is planted. So we're going to set up in the rear foot elevated squat here. He's going to go about a half foot length away from the pad. So scoot up just a little bit here, Carson. Good. And then we're going to rest the right foot back here on the pad, and you want to rest it very lightly. Don't push down into it. Okay. Now he's going to set his hands in a praying position and tilt that trunk forward as he collapses the back knee. 1 and back up. Good. We'll go again. 3, 2, 1. And you'll notice at this position he's got about a 35 to 40 degree lean. We want to replicate the individual pitcher's specific lean position when they're delivering the ball when we're doing it. So we'll get as specific as measuring a guy at ball release and then reproducing that position when he comes into the trunk tilt. Now if you'll come around the back here, I'll show you one of the warnings. When you get up tall, with all this RFE squatting, because some of our athletes have become pretty proficient at it, they can load it very heavily. With that comes an inherent risk for the SI joint. If the hip shifts into what we call a Trendelenburg position, come back up tall part. When he gets tall, shift into Trendelenburg, stay tall. Get back up. Good. Now, that would be the hip joint sort of collapsing on itself and the hip moving out laterally versus go down and come back up with a good rep. When he gets to the top, we want to cue him to fire his left glute when he gets tall. Come back up. Fire that glute and keep the left side straight, the loaded leg straight, so that we're protecting that SI joint and maintaining pelvic neutrality versus allowing the hip to get away. So that's the primary dysfunction that you'll see that makes the risk level higher. And then conversely, you'll see athletes staying too upright from this plane. We need them to lean forward and reproduce their trunk tilt if it is a pitcher that you're working with.